Welcome to the deep dive. You've handed us, well, quite a stack of spoilers and transcripts here. It looks like we're focusing on Port Charles early to mid-November, specifically November 5th through the 14th.
That's right. And it's not just any 2-week stretch. This period, based on what we have here, it's like a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Multiple major storylines seem to be colliding all at once.
Yeah, it really feels that way. So our mission today, for you listening, is to kind of cut through all that chaos, right? We need to untangle these overlapping schemes, look at the danger levels, which seem pretty high, and make sense of these, frankly, kind of bizarre political and romantic alliances.
Exactly. The goal is for you to walk away with a really clear picture of where all the key players are heading during this critical time. It seems like a period of intense strategic shifts.
Okay. And the sources, they definitely emphasize a certain ruthlessness across the board here. It feels like the whole tone is set by two huge, dramatic events happening almost back to back.
Which ones are you thinking of?
Well, first there's Carly. She's deep in this intense, really cold-blooded plotting phase, apparently aimed at just destroying Jack Brennan. Total annihilation.
Calculated strategic dismantling.
And then on the complete other end of the spectrum, you have the immediate physical danger facing Anna Devane. A brutal assault, maybe even a kidnapping. Just sudden, violent chaos.
It's a stark contrast, isn't it? Meticulous planning versus pure reactive violence. It really captures the two kinds of conflict brewing in Port Charles right now.
Absolutely. One's a chess game, the other's a smash and grab. Okay, let's unpack this then. Maybe start with the biggest power plays, the strategic moves happening behind the scenes.
Sounds good, because these power brokers, their decisions are rippling outwards, affecting everything from city politics down to, well, their own kids' safety. It feels like a very unstable chessboard.
All right, so let's talk about that dynamic duo, Carly Spencer and Valentin Cassadine, still laser-focused on Jack Brennan.
Oh, absolutely. Focus doesn't even quite cover it. They're actively coordinating their next move, according to this. It's not just talk anymore. They're in the execution phase of a plan designed to, well, take him down permanently.
Permanently, wow. So this isn't just neutralizing a threat.
No, this sounds like making sure he can't get back up. And Carly, specifically, is described as being ready to get to plotting. There's a real energy there, a personal investment in his destruction.
But here's the part that jumps out, and it feels maybe a little off-brand for Carly. Usually she's fiercely protective of her kids, right? But this plan apparently involves a huge risk to Jocelyn.
Ah, yes. This is, I think, a really critical point in understanding Carly's mindset right now. The scheme does risk Jocelyn. Jocelyn's taking on more WSB assignments, getting closer to Brennan, her boss.
Right.
And the really shocking part, according to these notes, is Carly's apparent indifference, or maybe acceptance, that Jocelyn's proximity to danger is okay if it serves the bigger goal of eliminating Brennan.
Indifference feels strong. I don't know if I fully buy indifference, maybe. Extreme calculation. Like, the threat Brennan poses is so huge, so existential maybe, that even her maternal instincts are being overridden by strategic necessity.
That's a fair way to put it. It definitely speaks volumes about how dangerous they perceive Brennan to be. Is this the price of power in Port Charles now? Sacrificing or at least risking your own child's safety for the greater good of the family or the business? It's a dark place for her character.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, so while Carly and Valentin are dealing with this sort of geopolitical threat, Sonny Corinthos is busy on the local front, tangling with the political machine, specifically acting DA Justine Turner.
Ah, yes. The axe-throwing meetup. You couldn't write a better metaphor, could you?
Right, it's perfect.
Meeting in a place literally designed for controlled aggression. But at the same time, there's this undeniable flirtation happening. They're sizing each other up, plotting against each other, and yet there's this spark.
Well, that's classic Sonny, isn't it? Using that charm, the dimples, as the source material puts it. It's a weapon for him. He flirts, challenges her, leave if you don't feel safe, knowing the challenge itself is part of the game.
It absolutely is. But let's be honest, this is a pattern for Sonny, and it's one that historically, well, it doesn't end well. Think about his past relationships with women in law enforcement or legal positions. Alexis, Diane. It always leads to complications, legal trouble, sometimes outright disaster.
So the big question, as the sources ask, isn't just will Justine fall for the dimples? It's more like, will Sonny fall into the same old trap? Or is Justine somehow different? Immune, maybe?
That's the million-dollar question. And tactically, what's his first move against her? How's he trying to throw her off balance?
The intel suggests he might try to shift her focus onto Portia Robinson. put Portia on the DA's radar.
Interesting. Why Portia?
Well, it could serve a couple of purposes, right? Maybe divert Justine's attention away from Sonny's own family and operations. Or perhaps create some instability around Portia's allies, which could be useful, especially with all the drama swirling around Drew Kane's shooting.
Okay, that makes sense. Distraction and destabilization, classic Corinthos playbook.
And speaking of the inner circle, Jason Morgan is back in the picture trying to be the voice of reason, or attempting to anyway. He's set to meet with Sonny, and it sounds like he's going to warn him off the DA.
Yeah, good luck with that, Jason. If there's one thing Sonny consistently does, it's ignore strategic advice when it involves women, especially women in power. Jason sees the danger signs flashing bright red.
But Sonny sees, what? A challenge, an opportunity for control.
Probably both. Regardless of the potential legal fallout, it's a storyline practically built for short-term sparks and long-term explosions.
Okay, so this political maneuvering isn't just happening between Sonny and the DA, it's reaching all the way up to the mayor's office. Laura Spencer's re-election campaign is apparently in serious trouble.
Yes, and the threat is coming from Jen Sidwell. He's playing dirty, using Laura's connection to Sonny Corinthos against her. It's basically weaponizing the city's relationship with the mob.
That feels incredibly cynical.
It is. The sources suggest Sidwell plans to push Laura's closeness to Sonny, which is complicated, familial, and decades old, into the public spotlight. The timing is deliberate, meant to boost her opponent, Ezra Boyle.
And there's a hint that Drew Kane might be involved with Ezra on this, though Drew has to go to D.C. for something first.
Yeah, the potential Drew connection adds another layer.
Okay.
But the key thing is the timing. This is all happening during election week, November 10th to the 14th. The speculation isn't just, will this hurt Laura? It's, will this cost her the election entirely?
Wow. If Laura Spencer, who's basically the face of legitimate government in Port Charles, loses because of her unavoidable link to Sonny, what does that say about the city?
It says the mob connection is potentially the single most powerful political force, maybe more powerful than public opinion or, actual policy. It fundamentally undermines the idea of clean governance.
And all this political heat, especially around Sonny and potentially Drew, circles right back to Portia Robinson again, doesn't it?
It does. She's facing intense questioning about where she was during Drew's shooting. She's apparently going to be forced to reveal her alibi. Which
feeds directly into that Sonny and Jason strategy session we mentioned earlier.
Exactly. That conference between them might be precisely about how to exploit this. The suggestion is they'll discuss ways to take the heat off Michael Corinthos.
Michael. So they think Michael might be implicated in the shooting somehow?
Or at least want to ensure he isn't. And the strategy? Potentially divert the investigation by throwing Portia under the bus instead.
Okay, wait. So protecting Michael is more important than Portia's reputation, or the damage this could do to her family, to Taggart, to Curtis.
From their perspective, absolutely. It seems to be a cold calculation of utility. Portia is, unfortunately for her, an easier target right now. High-profile job, proximity to the crime scene, complicated ties to everyone involved.
So redirecting the DA's focus onto her, maybe helped along by Sonny charming or manipulating Justine, is just like standard operating procedure.
It's a classic, ruthless move to protect the core family interests. It really highlights the theme of this whole section. Every single action, whether it's flirting over axe throwing or potentially risking your own daughter, seems driven by strategic calculation, not loyalty or morals.
Okay, so if that was the slow burn of political chess, this next part feels like hitting the accelerator on global espionage gone wild. This is where Anna Devane gets dragged right into the middle of something nasty.
Yeah, and it happens fast. Right before things go completely sideways, Anna makes this really bold declaration to Jason. She says she has to find out if Cesar Faison is alive, and if he is, she's going to finish him.
Oof. That's like waving a giant red flag in front of every shadowy organization on the planet. You don't just say that out loud. And what happens immediately after?
She's attacked.
Yeah.
Violently. The sources say chloroformed in her car, possibly kidnapped. It's swift, brutal, and clearly meant to neutralize her fast.
And the list of potential suspects is, well, it's basically a who's who of Port Charles threats.
Exactly. It could be Faison himself, assuming he is alive, or someone working for him. It could be the WSB trying to silence her for digging too deep, maybe into the Brennan stuff. Or it could even be Jen Sidwell tying back into the political games.
So the motive could be personal revenge, geopolitical cleanup, or even local political silencing. That's terrifyingly broad.
It's designed that way, isn't it? Plausible deniability. And this attack ties directly into something else the sources mention. The highly anticipated return of a familiar face, around November 6th.
Ah, right. And the speculation about who it is really changes the whole context of Anna's attack.
Precisely. If that returning face is Faison, or maybe even his son, Peter August, then Anna's kidnapping is likely direct personal vengeance, pure Faison-level obsession.
But if it's Valentin Cassadine, maybe transferred from Steinmauer, that European facility, to somewhere local, like a US WSB prison?
Then Anna's abduction is almost certainly linked to internal WSD politics, something connected to the Brennan takedown plot she's involved in with Carly. It suggests that the WSB might be eating its own.
So the entire city is bracing for either a ghost from the past seeking revenge or a hostile internal coup within the intelligence community. Great options.
Neither is particularly comforting, no. And here's where it gets really Byzantine. This whole WSB plot seems to be running through Windermere, the Cassadine Castle.
Yeah, let's call this the Windermere maneuver. It starts with Marco randomly asking Lucas Jones to move into Windermere with him, which immediately sets off alarm bells
Because Jen Sidwell lives there. The same guy trying to sabotage Laura's career using Sonny, suddenly Lucas is being pulled into this viper's nest.
Exactly. But it gets even more complicated. Jocelyn Jacks gets a new assignment from her WSB boss, Jack Brennan. What is it?
Get close to Sidwell. And how is she supposed to do that?
Mm.
By staying close to Lucas and finding out everything she can about Marco and Sidwell. So if Lucas moves into Windermere,
Jocelyn suddenly has the perfect excuse to be there all the time, embedded right in the heart of Sidwell's operation, under the guise of supporting Lucas.
bingo. Lucas is being played from both sides. Marco and Sidwell are likely using him for their own reasons, while Jocelyn, under Brennan's orders, is actively encouraging him to move in purely for her mission. He has zero agency here.
He's just a pawn, a complete pawn. It feels like he might sense the move is too fast, but Jocelyn's pushing him for reasons he doesn't understand.
Is performance art on Jocelyn's part, fueled by her WSB task. She's prioritizing the mission, which, in a way, echoes the kind of ruthless calculation her mother, Carly, is showing right now.
Okay, and who else happens to be hanging around Windermere these days, conveniently offering Lucas support?
None other than Ava Jerome. She's spending more time there. And she offers Lucas this supposed safety net. You know, if it doesn't work out with Marco, you can always come back to my place.
Which sounds nice, but with Ava, there's always an angle, right?
Always. On the surface, it's supportive. But Ava benefits massively from having an ally, or at least an information source, inside Windermere, especially now. And given that Sidwell seems quite interested in her.
Let's talk about that. Sidwell and Ava. The sources mention a flirty vibe, and Ava is, quote, single as a Pringle now. Is there potential there?
The vibe is definitely noted. But Sidwell is primarily a political operator. The key takeaway from the sources is that he sees Ava as potentially very useful.
Useful, not romantic.
His interest appears strategic. Ava knows everyone and everything in Port Charles, especially the secrets surrounding the Corinthos family. If Lucas moves in, Ava will naturally be around Windermere more, putting her directly in Sidwell's orbit.
So the question isn't will they hook up, but more like what information or leverage does Sidwell think Ava provides? And does Ava know she's being seen as useful, or is she playing him?
Knowing Ava, my money's on her being fully aware of the strategic value exchange. She rarely walks into anything blind. In this tangled Windermere ecosystem, everyone seems to be an agent, a target, or like Ava, a very valuable, very flexible asset. Okay, shifting gears a bit. While all this global and political intrigue is swirling, the personal lives, the family units are facing just as much upheaval. Let's start with the place where drama never sleeps, the Quartermain Mansion.
Right. Tracy Quartermain drops a bombshell on Gio Palmieri. There's been a reversal of fortune. Turns out Monica left the house to Tracy.
That's seismic. It completely redraws the power map within the family. Tracy now holds the ultimate trump card, the family home itself.
And it sounds like she's not exactly in a forgiving mood.
Not at all. She's apparently digging in her heels hard against any kind of reconciliation. Gio, who seems to genuinely like Ronnie, tries to reason with her, let Ronnie and the others come back. But Tracy's anger runs deep.
Is she telling Gio why she's so angry about the betrayal?
It seems she might not be telling him the full story. Specifically that, in her view, everybody sided with the traitor. She's keeping that part close to the chest, perhaps.
So this isn't just about consolidating power with the house deed. It's about emotional revenge, too. And poor Gio, who doesn't get the whole picture,
becomes the perfect leverage. Because he has a good relationship with the exiled family members, Tracy can use him as bait, the likely plan. convince Gio to move into the mansion with her.
And then use his presence, plus her control of the house, to try and lure BLQ, Chase, and Dante back. On her terms, obviously.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
classic Tracy, using love, loyalty, family ties, but twisting them to rebuild the family structure exactly the way she wants it, not necessarily how they want it. It's manipulation disguised as matriarchy.
Okay, while the cues are imploding, other characters are dealing with some really heavy emotional milestones. Nathan West has a conversation with Spinelli and Felicia about James.
Yes, about custody. Spinelli and Felicia gently suggest that maybe enforcing his full custody rights right now isn't the best thing for James, who's settled in his home with his siblings.
And Nathan, surprisingly, agrees.
He does. He seems to recognize that disrupting James's life isn't the right move, which is a huge relief for Spinelli and Felicia. It actually shows a degree of maturity from Nathan, choosing his son's stability over his own desires.
That's good to hear. And that decision seems to free up Felicia because she immediately takes on a new PI case, investigating what?
Nathan's 7-year disappearance. That's a massive cold case to reopen. It connects Nathan's present emotional growth directly back to whatever happened in his mysterious past. Big potential there.
While Felicia's playing detective, Alexis Davis is trying to support Danny Morgan through a tough time, the first anniversary of his mother Sam McCall's death.
Yeah, a really difficult day for him. But naturally in Port Charles, grief is never simple. It gets complicated immediately by Drew Kane's behavior.
What's Drew doing?
He's actively banning Danny from being around him, saying Danny somehow let Sam down.
Let Sam down. How? That sounds cruel, especially to a grieving kid.
It does. The sources suggest Drew is projecting his own feelings of failure, maybe related to his separation from Scout onto Danny. It's misplaced anger and grief.
And Alexis has to step in.
She does. She has to clarify for Danny that this ban isn't really about him letting Sam down, but it's more related to Danny's behavior being perceived by Drew as more about Jason than him.
Oh, wow. So Drew is making Danny's grief about the rivalry between him and Jason, essentially forcing Danny to navigate loyalty issues between his dead mother's partners on the anniversary of her death.
That's the heavy emotional load being placed on him, yes. Alexis is caught in the middle, trying to manage Danny's grief and the stepfather's complex emotional issues and defend Danny's connection to his actual father.
It's just layers upon layers of past trauma infecting the present. Classic Port Charles.
Absolutely. Personal grief is always tangled up in decades of romantic history and often criminal rivalries.
Okay, on a slightly less depressing note, maybe, some romantic developments seem to be happening. Jordan Ashford and Curtis Ashford.
Things are definitely heating up there. They're getting closer, and the speculation is they might hit the sheet soon. A significant step, whether it's towards full reconciliation or just, reconnecting physically.
And then there's the fake romance that everyone knows is going to become real, Michael and Jacinda Bracken.
Right. They're taking their supposedly fake relationship public. But the key detail the sources flag is that Jacinda still hasn't returned Nina Reeves' check.
Huh. The check that was the entire reason for this fake relationship in the first place.
Exactly. It's the reminder that this started as a purely transactional arrangement. But the prediction is strong. The charade is going to crumble under actual feelings. They're expected to become a real couple, getting intimate soon.
Sometimes scheming together is the best foreplay in Port Charles, I guess.
Seems that way. We also have some tension flaring up between Brooklyn Quartermain and Harrison Chase. BLQ is apparently laying into him, likely defending Willow Tate, insisting on her innocence. There's a suggestion that Alexis might be close to getting Willer out on bail, which would put even more pressure on Chase, caught between his job, Willow, and maybe residual feelings for BLQ.
Okay, and before we move on from this section, we absolutely have to talk about the looming threat of Rick Lansing's return. He's free from whatever hell that Jerome Davis Coven put him through.
And hell is probably the right word. Let's just reiterate the details from the sources. Treated for severe dehydration after being strapped down and heavily drugged for 30 days.
30 days? That's not just imprisonment, that's prolonged physical and psychological torture. That kind of experience changes a person fundamentally.
Completely rewrites them. He wasn't just held captive, he was systematically broken down. So when the sources say he's expected to pop up seeking revenge, we should expect that revenge to be brutal, meticulously planned, and aimed at everyone he holds responsible.
He had a month, strapped down, with nothing else to do but plan. That's a terrifyingly focused villain about to re-enter the scene.
Absolutely. A truly formidable threat. And just one last quick note on shifting fortunes. Martin Gray, broke, Kicked out by Laura. What happens to him?
Yeah. Does he have to tuck tail and leave town? Or does he end up crashing at Drew's place now that Willow's potentially out?
It just shows how quickly things can change. Even a seemingly established lawyer can find himself completely adrift overnight. The safety nets in Port Charles are thin.
It's really striking how the kids aren't just bystanders in all this adult chaos. The younger generation seems to be running their own parallel operation, showing some serious initiative.
They really are. It seems they've decided the adults are too caught up in their own messes to deal with the Dalton situation, so they're taking it on themselves. Charlotte, Cassidy, and Emma are actively working on a strategy, trying to get proof on him.
But the really bold move, the one that makes you gasp a little, comes from Rocco Falconeri. What's his plan?
He plans to steal the lab key fob. Okay, standard kid spy stuff, maybe. But steal it from who? Britt Westbourne. From Britt. Okay, that elevates the risk level exponentially. Britt is chaos incarnate. Rocco's stealing from her. That's not just playing detective. That's genuinely dangerous. It shows an incredible level of seriousness and, frankly, risk tolerance from these kids. They're operating with a kind of low-level espionage mindset that mirrors the actual WSB agents we were just talking about.
Which understandably requires some parental oversight. Dante Falconeri apparently has a talk with Lulu Spencer. What about?
Likely about Rocco. His recent behavior, this whole mission he's on, and, crucially, the inescapable danger tied to his Faison family connection. Dante knows better than anyone the long, dark shadow that family casts.
He's worried Rocco is maybe heading down a similar path, getting drawn into that world of secrets and danger.
That seems to be the underlying fear. Is Rocco just being a curious kid, or is he unconsciously following in the footsteps of his more problematic relatives? And that leads directly to this potentially massive twist the sources hint at regarding the lab.
Okay, you teased this earlier. This is where it gets really interesting, right? What might the kids find?
So, the speculation is, when they finally succeed, when Rocco gets the key fob, they get into the lab. They might not find Dalton. They might be shocked to discover that Britt Westbourne has actually taken Dalton's place, that she is now the boss running whatever was happening in that lab.
Whoa, okay. Britt is the boss, not Dalton. That completely flips the script.
Completely. Is she doing it willingly? Is she being coerced, maybe by Brennan or the WSB? Is she continuing Dalton's work or trying to dismantle it from the inside? Just throws everything into question.
And what does that do to Rocco, specifically? Finding Britt, this woman he calls his other mother, in charge of this potentially sinister operation.
The sources suggest it might be the thing that finally ends his curiosity about her. It could shatter any kind of romanticized or even ambiguous image he had. She's no longer just a mysterious, complicated figure from his past.
She's actively involved in the very darkness he and his friends are trying to fight against.
Exactly. It makes her undeniably part of the problem, part of the system of secrets and potential danger. It's a really harsh lesson for him, forcing him and the other kids to confront the reality that the lines between good and bad are incredibly blurry, and even the people they might feel connected to can be deeply compromised.
It's a brutal loss of innocence, packaged as a huge plot reveal. It basically makes the entire adult world seem completely opaque and untrustworthy from their perspective. Hashtag tag outro.
So if we try to pull all these threads together from, these 2 weeks in early November, what picture emerges? It's a Port Charles defined by deeply compromised power structures and relationships being used as weapons.
Okay, so what does this all mean? Let's try to boil down the major takeaways for you listening at home. What are the 3 big things happening here?
All right, first, politics is thoroughly corrupted. Sidwell is openly using Sonny's mob ties as leverage to influence the mayoral election. It suggests that backroom deals and criminal connections might be more powerful than the ballot box right now. The integrity of the city's leadership is really under threat.
Got it.
Second, the scope and ruthlessness of the WSB operation centered around Windermere. It's highly organized, running through Sidwell and Brennan, and it's actively using people like Jocelyn and Lucas, whether they fully realize it or not, as pawns or operatives. Windermere isn't just a Gothic mansion, it's ground zero for global intrigue impacting local lives.
Okay. And third?
Third is the immense personal cost of all these power games. We're seeing deep trauma and its consequences everywhere. Think about Rick Lansing emerging from 30 days of torture as a potentially terrifying force of vengeance. Or Danny Morgan, whose grief over his mother is being twisted by his stepfather's issues with Jason. Personal struggles aren't separate. They're completely entangled in these larger strategic conflicts.
Yeah, it feels like during this period, November 5th to the 14th, almost every major character is resorting to pretty extreme, ruthless methods. Flirting as manipulation, kidnapping, exploiting family ties, political sabotage. It's all on the table to achieve their goals.
Exactly. The line between personal life and strategic maneuvering has completely blurred. They're one and the same now.
Which leads to a pretty unsettling final thought, doesn't it?
It does. Consider the sheer audacity, the betrayal involved in Sidwell weaponizing Laura's connection to Sonny. If the city's political power is being decided by mob associations and clandestine WSB plots run out of a castle, who in Port Charles is actually left operating with clean hands?
Right. Who hasn't been compromised or coerced or fundamentally changed by this pervasive network of secrets, lies, and ruthless ambition? That's the really disturbing question hanging over the city as we head deeper into this winter.